This week, we're discussing Xbox's statements regarding their business strategy in response to some information leaks and rumors. This is the Good Game Bad Game podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game Bad Game podcast. Good Game Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man who's really excited for whatever game comes out in a few weeks, so we can inevitably forget about Helldivers 2, which made us forget about... What was that other game? Anyway, it's my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
That was really good.
Thanks. I try. Hey, I try. Thanks.
Are you going to get Helldivers?
It's one of those things where I think the court of public opinion's gonna push me to it. So much so that I actually downloaded Helldivers, like the first one, because I want to dive into it and just see if it's something that I would enjoy. But from everything I'm seeing,
I'll dive into it.
Yeah. Oh, you got jokes.
Now we're
talking. But yeah, I mean, not to like go so into it, but it's like one of those things where it's like refreshing to see a game that was very clearly just like what the team wanted to make. They made it. They sold it at a $40 price point. And it's like, it's an absolute hit. It's really telling when a game can blow up to this with all of these different factors and can blow up to this, level. And be different from like the general, I would say, like development slop and turnout that we're kind of used to at this point. So
yeah, but their CEO could have made so much money if they sold it for $70 each.
maybe, or maybe that would have turned people off to the.
I'm sure. A $40 price tag at this point almost feels like it's almost like a marketing thing.
Mm-hmm.
People see a game's $40, like I don't care what it is, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah, you're stupid not to. Yeah. This is a steal.
I can't afford not to.
Yeah. And that's not truly a dig at the $70 price point. I think we've talked about it before, where it's like, I think we all need to reflect and realize how fortunate we are that like video game prices didn't go up since the start of the PS3 era, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that when $60 games became the norm?
Yeah.
They
jumped from like a $40 price tag then, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, for it to have gone that long and only to have like a $10 price hike, I think Tom Henderson, I'm pretty sure he was the one who tweeted that like his not so bold prediction for like the next generation of gaming is like $100 price point. Which is crazy because like it's moving in the wrong direction. You can't expect there's just no way, but also like prices are going to increase and stuff. But if it's not reflected, whatever. We're not going to get into
it. We'll break down the economics of gaming another
day. Before we can break down the economics of gaming, we have to understand the economics of the individual. And, once we figure that out, then you can go ahead and price hike the games. Enough about that. How was your weekend games? What'd you get up to?
It was a pretty mild week. I honestly, when I have time to play video games, it's just been Cyberpunk recently.
Hell yeah, nice.
And just getting more and more and more into the lore of that game. And I feel like these little like NCPD scanners that I skipped the whole time, I've had so much of that. So that's fun. And now I just like I wish I were into tabletop games because I want to play all the Cyberpunk tabletop games now.
Yeah. I mean, hey, why not? Why not get into it?
I don't have any friends.
Oh,
I don't have any like close like friends that are geographically close to me.
no. You said what you said.
Okay, yeah, I don't have any friends.
I'm hurt.
Eh,
What is this but just a very long acquaintanceship?
yeah, yep, that's all it is.
um no, I get that. It's tough. Both Shelby and I enjoy like tabletop games and like deck builder games and stuff like that. But so often those are meant to be played. They can be played with two people, so like, you know, but you know, so often they're meant to be played with like three, four, five.
Right,
And it's tough. It's like really tough to like have people, one, who are close to you that want to do it, and then two, it's like always seems inevitable that the people who are interested in that sort of thing live elsewhere. So it's like, okay, well, next time you're in town, I guess we'll bust them out, blow off the dust. So I hear you. But yeah, basically, I'm saying force Justine to play with you.
yeah, she'll love that.
Phrasing.
She doesn't even like watching me play Cyberpunk.
That's great. That's great.
Um, yeah, Cyberpunk, and then we got the control deck set up or whatever it's called,
Oh yeah. The
and
SNES. Yep.
yep, had to break the corrosion off of a couple of games, but we got them working.
Oof.
Um, and so Justine played uh Super Mario All Stars and whatever whatever it is, the game you told me to get that I told
Mm-hmm.
you that we already had.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got a funny story behind that, but I'll save that for her journey into gaming. So I'm sure she'll talk about it.
Hell yeah.
And then a while ago, like over a year ago, it was when we still lived in Pennsylvania. We bought Clue for the Super Nintendo,
Okay.
and we had never played it. And we're like, oh, let's go dig through our boxes, find it, and play it. And it is literally just like a video game representation of the board game with a couple different like mechanics.
That's
Um,
crazy.
it's actually really fun. It's hard to keep track of. Like you need to have a pen and paper still, but
That's so funny. Wow, that's actually crazy. I didn't think any like board game to video game like pipeline. I didn't think any of that happened until like more recent, basically. Like,
yeah,
you know, like
this was like
maybe PS3.
1992.
That's crazy. Yeah, the only like games that I can think of that I knew were on that are like, you know, like Jeopardy
Mm-hmm.
and Wheel of Fortune, right? Like those have been on every single console, I think. Um that's that's so funny. And kind of
It's
cool.
kind of it's kind of a cool experience because we were thinking about like how we can better keep track of these things,
Mhm.
like just keep track of the things you learn in the game. So the next time we play, we're actually going to set up our physical clue board, and like as we figure things out, because it's a little bit of a different mechanic. It's hard to explain without like showing somebody,
Uh-huh.
but as you learn things, it's like we're going to put those pieces in whatever room they should be in.
That's kind
'Cause,
of
like
cool.
since you're playing on a big screen anyway, there's like when somebody learns something, everybody learns it.
Right.
And it actually like a lot of the game is based on deduction. Like you learn that somebody had a certain weapon but wasn't in a certain room.
Mhm.
And then as you go on, you figure those things out. So we're thinking about doing that. So it's kind of like a mixed media experience.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty
we're
neat.
excited to try that.
You're just recreating Seen It in the year 2024.
Yes, pretty much. Something that should have never died.
Yeah, well, I mean, when the DVD player died, so to it does Seen It.
Mm, yeah.
So, that's great. That's a great great weekend games.
Yeah,
I'm very
yeah.
excited to hear Justine's experience with Super Mario All Stars. It was she playing like the original Super Mario Bros, Super Mario Bros 2, which is like the Japan release,
hmm
uh
Um,
Super Mario Bros 3,
actually,
or was she playing Super Mario World? I think those are the only
um,
four.
we really didn't play a ton on the cartridge, and it was really unfortunate timing because Justine has been playing them on the emulator on the Switch.
Okay.
So, like, we just basically plugged it in to make sure it worked. I think Justine played. I don't know what she's playing right now. I know she played. She is playing one,
Okay.
like the original Super Mario,
Okay.
and I think she started three.
Three's
She'll play like
iconic.
she'll play like multiple at the same time.
God,
Well,
what a
yeah, we
freak.
were. Yeah, she is. We were going through it, and she said the same thing. She's like, "Where's Super Mario Bros. 2?"
Oh,
Like, oh,
it should be on there.
I don't know. Yeah, it is. We didn't like but I didn't realize it was only a Japanese release um until we put in All Stars and it said like
Oh, I got you. I got you.
US
I got you.
version or something like that, or now in
Yeah.
the US, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's like or it's like or Super Mario Bros 2 did release, but then there's like Super Mario Bros Lost Levels, which were like levels
Yeah,
that were
there
only
is
released in
that.
Japan. It's something like that. I can't remember,
I
but
kind of think that Super Mario Bros. 2 is just the lost levels.
maybe.
Like maybe yeah, I can't remember.
I don't know. I always get confused.
Interesting lore.
Interesting lore indeed, as our friends in Japan realize that we Americans are too weak-minded to be able to play. Um, well, I mean, just plenty of releases, right? Like, there's so many releases that only happen
Yeah.
in Japan. But I feel like that was something of the olden days, where it was like definitely correlated to like a difficulty aspect, not so much like Americans just won't care about giant mech fights as much as like they're prevalent in Japan. So you'll see like 30 of those released in Japan over a small period of time, but like only 5 of those will get ported actually to the West. Very interesting. Very interesting how all that works.
Indeed.
Anyway, that's fun. I'm,
Yeah. Tell
I'm
me about your week.
um I also had this NES set up. Shelby and I started playing Chrono Trigger. Um which is like regarded as one of the best games of all time, one of the best RPGs. Um, made by SquareSoft before they were Square Enix. Um, so that's pretty fun. We only ran into one issue where the game just like completely froze up, so we had to reset. And those old JRPGs, honestly, even the current JRPGs that I like just played, like they're not very forgiving on like where and when they allow you to save. Um, so we had to backtrack and redo some stuff, which sucked, but also made us realize that we really need to be as diligent as possible when it comes to like if we can go out of our way just a little bit but save the game, we should probably do it. But yeah, it's good, and it's not, so far at least, it's not stupid hard like the really old RPGs that are dependent on like RNG and stuff like that normally are. So hopefully that maintains. But trying to think what else. I think that's it. Played for getting like platinums and stuff. I played this game called Little Big Workshop, which is like I kind of feel like it was on Stadia. Um
It sounds familiar.
basically just have like a workshop and you just it's a management game.
Very nice.
Um yeah, great. Except if you hit like negative 5,000, you like declare bankruptcy and your factory, your workshop gets shut down, and you basically have to like reload a save. And I had a save where I was riding this like really fine line where I had like 3 productions that were just about ready, but I needed to figure out a way to like get them to get out at the right time to like keep me from going bankrupt. I must have reloaded that save like 40 times and just kept doing it over and over again. And then, like there would be a time where I got it and the game crashed, shit like that. I was just like banging my head against the wall. But it was very fun. Like it was like one of those just like mindless management sim type games where it's just like, yeah, all right, I see the money go up and that make brain happy. So it was a fun time. So I was playing that a good bit, I think the past week or so. But other than that, nothing too crazy. No other antics.
No,
No.
you gotta save yourself for the 15th.
Gotta save myself for the 15th, yes. That will be the show.
Make as much money as possible. Why then? In game.
Wait, what?
I'm combining games now. Anyway.
I need to use my workshop to fund my team. I got you. All right.
Yeah. You got to buy yourself to be on whatever team you're gonna be put on.
Yeah. I got you.
Works like baseball, where if the only way you get in is if you have enough money. Or
I like
live in
it.
the Dominican.
That would be great. I would love a baseball game where it's like you get to be an owner. So you have to like also manage your like whatever business is the reason you have enough money to own a baseball team. But then you have to like do press conferences where you go in front of the media and like the public and say about how like baseball's not a lucrative business and you don't make money on it, but you know you're lying because you can see your revenue reports. And say like that's why you can't go out and sign like any big free agents and stuff like that, and that if the public doesn't provide more money, you're gonna move the team out of Arizona and stuff, you know. But I don't know.
Raise the price of hot dogs to $100.
You actually used to be able to do that in MVP Baseball 2005 for sure. They had an owner mode.
I saw a lot of people talking about old Madden games where you could do that.
Yeah, you could have a real hand on the expenses and stuff like that, and the cost of things at the ballpark. There was even a stadium creator back on that game, which is like crazy. That was 19, 20 years ago. Yeah, wild.
The fact that they got rid of like the stadium creator things is amazing.
They finally brought it back like what, 2 years ago? No, well,
Or
PS5.
MLB?
Yeah. But it's only on the next gen, like our current gen PS5 and the series consoles.
Gotcha. Well, that's kind of cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Get these like little league ballparks basically, and just hit piss missiles left and right. All right, let's talk Xbox, shall we?
All right, let's do it.
So this is the thing that we said we weren't going to talk about until we got more information. And now we finally got more information after Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, and Matt Booty joined the Xbox podcast to discuss what exactly Xbox's like business plan or provide a business update. Found it interesting that Phil made it sound like this was something that was going to happen before the leaks even started. They were going to like kind of hold a little like what I would consider this like basically it was set up like a press conference. But they were kind of like forced to shuffle around a bit based on the rumors and stuff like that, which to dive into that, those all started off of somebody pushing that Starfield was going to come to PlayStation. Is that right?
I think that's what set it over the edge.
I guess it was Hi-Fi Rush.
Right. I think Hi-Fi Rush because somebody found um I think maybe things on like the Xbox store that showed like Hi-Fi Rush merch. One was like a red shirt that was implying Switch, and they had one that was a blue shirt that was implying PlayStation, and then a green shirt, obviously for Xbox. And that one, like, whatever, you kind of had to know. But then yeah, people were like, "Oh, Starfield's gonna do it," and nobody, I feel, did any actual research, and everyone just went with it.
Yeah, and just start kind of pushing it. Um, and it's so funny because I feel like we talked about these things. We talked about like the general idea of exclusivity and kind of like where we were at with it, right? Where we were kind of getting to the point where, and obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's really not like that big of a deal anymore. And we both agreed that like there are certain franchises where it would be shocking to see it like cross, but certainly
Mhm.
there's plenty of games that are right now under the umbrella of exclusivity where and Phil goes into it. He kind of takes like the words out of my mouth like that I would be saying, which is like there are just certain games where you have the potential to actually like show a bit more investment into it by like pushing it to a wider audience, and by capturing that audience it's easier to say like, you know what, let's make a sequel or what have you. um and yeah, it's like we were saying, there are certain games where it just makes like fundamental sense to do it with. uh
Right, and
Go
he
ahead.
kept putting out there their community-driven games.
Yeah,
So, I mean, he makes the point, like, why would you want to put parameters on a community?
I yeah, I think these are basically the parameters you and I had set. He says they're games that are over a year old, they're community driven, and they've reached their full potential on Xbox and PC.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, it feels like a no brainer, right? To like, and he even says pushing like passion games to reach more of their potential and drive value for the game itself. Um, those are the games that I think like definitely make the most sense. So if I was going to point to, um, a game that released over a year ago for Xbox, Hi-Fi Rush is a game that definitely kind of like fits that narrative.
Mhm.
Uh, I love the idea of Horizon's been out for a year. You know, I
I
don't think that's.
kinda doubt it'll be Horizon.
I'm saying like for PlayStation, like Horizon Zero Dawn. If it had been out
Oh,
for a
okay.
year, right?
Gotcha,
Sorry,
gotcha.
not Forza. Sorry. Um, but yeah, like if Horizon's been out for a year and it's been overshadowed by Elden Ring, why not give it another? Why not go ahead and give it another push,
Right.
so it can reach more of an audience? That's not a game that I think like needs to be uniquely set in the PlayStation ecosystem, and I know plenty of people would probably disagree with that, but um, it's just like it doesn't matter. You get as long as you're so as long as there's still a benefit to be had, which I think there is a strong benefit to being able to say, like, I have been on this console and I know I can get these XYZ games day one of release. If I'm okay with not getting them day one and I'm okay with waiting a year, like fine, then I'll play on the other system because that has the games that I want to play day one or something along those lines, right? Um, and I think like Xbox's commitment to like bringing these games day one to Game Pass and like bundling it in this like way that is very obtainable, right? To
Mhm.
be able to like have a wide library of games um at your fingertips, at a fairly reasonable price, right? Like it's the price of paying for two full price games in a year.
Mhm.
Um I don't know. Like I think like that is like a good value to their community, and like uh I don't think it's a disservice to their community to put games on other ecosystems. Um,
For
Go ahead.
for me, I mean, the main thing that I needed to hear, and I assumed this would be the case, is that Game Pass is not coming to other platforms.
Yes, I found that
And
to be
I
very
think,
interesting.
see, I think that is the only exclusivity you need.
Yeah.
I don't, I don't think you need Game Pass on other platforms because that's what gets customers to their hardware, which they also reinstated that they want to keep doing
Mm-hmm.
for the foreseeable future. So, yeah, I mean, I think that was a big deal for me as someone who primarily at this point is on the Xbox platform. That makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so when they had this, they said there's 4 games. They didn't say which ones. Um, we've heard 2 rumored ones in Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment. Hi-Fi Rush, I think, is pretty much all but finalized. Pentiment, I don't know. Like, I could certainly see the value of that going to other platforms, but I don't really think it was all that big on Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
People were really excited about it the first month it was out, and then you never heard about it again.
Right.
And then, but games like Sea of Thieves and Grounded, I think it makes total sense for them to come to PlayStation.
Which shout out that you just said grounded, because as we're recording this, peek behind the curtain, the Nintendo little developer showcase is happening, which we're just going to talk about next week. But I did see an update come across my phone that Grounded is coming to Switch,
Okay,
and it
there
makes
you go.
perfect sense. Like you said, like
Yeah,
that's like that. It's really funny how on the nose you were right there. Like a perfect example, and one that I had honestly forgotten about, which I think is also something that is like rather telling. If it's an exclusive that is fairly easy to forget about, you know, outside of just the hustle and bustle of forgetting things, then that's something that I think. And Grounded's like a great concept, right? It's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the video game.
pretty much, yeah.
Like, yeah, fantastic.
But also like 7 Days to Die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
It's a game you want to play with people. Like you're not really you can play it by yourself. It's like Sea of Thieves. You can play it by yourself.
mm-hmm,
It's better with people. And like for me, that's awesome because I'm really the only person that in my friend group that plays Xbox.
mm-hmm,
So like if I could play Sea of Thieves with you or like my brother or Grounded, like
mm-hmm.
that'd be awesome.
Oh, dude, would be so fucking annoying. Just pirate accents. Um, no, and that's like another great point though. They like brought up how like they're driven to try and like work to make crossplay, cross platform, cross save, all that stuff as viable as possible. And like this was a 20-minute, you know, segment, whatever. And the entire time the main takeaway for me is that like Xbox has been and still is committed to players. Like they go with the whole like when everybody plays, we all win, right? Like that's their
Mhm.
like motto, and they like it rings true, it holds true, right? And like this is them following through with that. Like that's them following through with the that you know line of thinking. Um, yeah, like they're committed to providing the best experience and providing experiences in general to as many people as they can. And like everything that Phil stressed in like his opening statements is like these are just like smart business savvy decisions, right? Like if something's already captured its entire audience, you got to look for other avenues, and if it makes good business sense, do it. So
I'm trying to put into words like during basically up until my opinion, like the PS4, Xbox One era, like the console wars were so prevalent,
mhm,
but there also wasn't much money behind video games at that point. Like there was money, obviously, or else it wouldn't have gone on, but it was a lot more passion projects. And like with passion about individual games comes passion about platforms. And now it's such a business. It's such a lucrative business for these companies that are involved
mhm.
that the passion kind of comes second. And like you obviously get people who are passionate about building games and that's still there. It's just the model's different.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
point me to other hi-fi rush type games. Like point me to other games that are exclusives to one console that are like that fit like that mold, right? You
mhm,
can't point to one on PlayStation anymore. Like you go back to PS4 and they had like Concrete Genie, Knack, right? And like those types of games, we're never going to see another game like that from PlayStation if they continue going forward with this idea of like massive, like big budget AAA game,
mhm.
one every like they just had a announcement that there's not going to be a mainline PlayStation game released before March of 2025. It's going to be a whole ass year before we see um like a PlayStation like first party game.
And why isn't the world on fire about that?
Right. I mean, and like the success at the tail end of the PS4 is like you're not going to be able to match that, right? You had like God of War come out, then you had The Last of Us and
Mhm.
Ghost of Tsushima come out, and like yeah, I get it. You can't replicate that. That's going to be incredibly hard to do. Those stars aligned, but also like not taking any like it's not even a risk. Like just not like allowing for anything like fun to be made anymore, right? Like you just have to go with the safest option.
Mhm.
And we talked about this like I think this was back when we were talking about like the year ahead and like uh it just sucks that we aren't going to see that. The what Microsoft and what Xbox is proposing here, what Phil Spencer is like bringing up is like the concept of being able to still have games like that, right? By like by doing these like limited run exclusivity type things and then like allowing the game to like really breathe um and and get out there, which I think
And
is important.
it's so funny because people are just like, "Oh, why would I get this on Xbox? I don't want to be a beta tester for a game so it can be perfect when it comes out on PlayStation." That's just such a stupid mindset.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. Like, yeah, it's going to be better at that point.
But
But
but then you should just be waiting a year or 6 months or whatever, right? For every game.
the idea of playing a game first, like on day 1, just doesn't make a lot of sense anymore. Like I understand the hype behind it and you want to play it like before everyone else or like for me the only reason I try to play games as early as possible if it's a game I'm really into is to avoid spoilers.
Mhm.
But other than that, there is like no reason to be playing a game even within the first year. Except for in the rare occasion where like a game is actually finished. I mean, you look at the games winning game of the year, those are finished games coming out day 1.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't
That's a
know.
good point.
I don't know. It's not consistent anymore. Sometimes you get really good games day 1 and sometimes it takes a year. But I don't know, I just don't like the mindset that you think you're beta testing for PlayStation. It's like, no, you have the opportunity to play it first and enjoy it and then
Yeah, again, if that's your mindset, you're calling yourself a beta tester for every game you play at like ever, basically.
Right.
Like you're basically saying that like, oh, I'm just beta testing for the people who don't want to pick this up until next year. Like,
Right.
what? That makes no sense.
And we've said it a million times on this podcast. If it's a game you're really passionate about, one, why wouldn't you want other people to play it to experience it? Like, why would you want to gatekeep that experience? And two, why wouldn't you want it to attempt to make more money so you get a sequel, or the studio that made
Exactly.
it makes, your next favorite game?
Like think about it like this, right? Like think about it like you're a fucking loser who thinks Days Gone should get a sequel, right? The best way for that to happen is for the game to go live on other platforms and consoles, breathe a little bit there, and when the sales suck there, PlayStation can put the final nail in the coffin that it makes no fucking sense for Days Gone to get a sequel. Think about it like that, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a very easy way to see if a game has legs, longevity, stuff like that. Um, that was just for me to get a quick dunk in on Days Gone.
No, I was in the back of my head too, so
Cool.
I'm glad you were able to pull it out
Yeah.
naturally.
Um,
But like
any chance I
also,
have.
if Days Gone came to Xbox, it probably would have been awesome because like there really isn't a game like that on Xbox.
Yeah, and if it does really well, then like bingo bongo. PlayStation says we were wrong. Let's make a sequel.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and again, that's just a game that. And Days Gone did go to PC, if I remember correctly.
It did, yes.
But that's a game where it's like it just doesn't make sense for it to like nobody is like in the console wars. Nobody hopefully is saying nobody. Hopefully nobody's console warring. But if you are, hopefully nobody's like, yeah, well we have Days Gone. It's like,
Right.
well, that works against you.
Yeah, honestly.
um, yeah. Again, like they, it's so funny that like so much of this is just wrapped up in like the stuff that we were already saying where it's like there's certain games that I get and like it makes sense to try and like keep those as exclusives. They would look funny or weird on another console, Halo being one of them, right?
Sure.
It would be weird to see Halo on something else. But if at the end of the day they decided that that was best, or it was like a Halo like side game where they were just like there's been all these like uh news there's been all this news around how like Halo creators had like pitched effectively trying to make a Helldivers type Halo game.
Okay.
So like had they like done something like that where it's not like a mainline game, so they push that at a $40 price point across all other consoles. It's like, yeah, that would make sense, right? Like get people into the Halo without providing the peak Halo experience to try and get them interested. That was something else that Phil stressed, right? He sees this as an opportunity to get people more interested in the Xbox ecosystem.
Mhm.
And if it works and you get more hardware sales out of it, out of doing these like business decisions, that's just like kind of gravy on top, right? Because you're already doing the smart decision for these games by like putting them on these other uh, ecosystems and finding ways to capture more value from them. So like you're already doing like the smart thing on the individual game to game basis. If you get additional hardware sales out of it, you get people to like buy into the whole idea of Xbox out of it. That's just like gravy on top.
Yeah, you realize that, and this is again where I think it makes sense to keep Game Pass on PC and Xbox,
Hmm.
where like you find yourself as a PlayStation user buying multiple games that are on Game Pass, and you say, well, you know what, I play enough of these, it makes sense to invest in the hardware and get Game Pass and all that.
Hmm.
Like you could definitely convert people that way. I mean, that's kind of what happened to me.
Yeah, no, definitely. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't have too much else to say. They did kind of like, wow, Not because I think they intended to just like roll over it, but Sarah Bond announced that ActiBliz games are going to be coming to Game Pass, and then um, I forget the name of the woman who was kind of like running the panel. She just immediately was like, "Oh, cool." Anyway, Phil, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah, Phil really is just a rock star, huh?"
I'm being like, I don't know. I think Sarah Bond is too,
I
but
I agree. I it's
she's
just
also mostly like hardware. So
it's so funny how like you could tell the entirety of it was like the person just wanted to talk to Phil. It's like Matt had to like push his way in to say something. Sarah had to push her way in to say something. These are like extremely important people when it comes to Xbox.
hmm
It's so funny how like how much Phil just like commands attention.
I mean,
Um,
but it also comes down on him
100%.
way more than Sarah and Matt.
100%. But Active coming to Game Pass. That's like that's such strong value. And then kind of going off of that, it's so funny. Like Phil brought up a really good point where it's like we're one of the largest publishers on PlayStation already because of the capture they have now of Activision Blizzard and ZeniMax. And that's just like such a funny statement. It's like Xbox games already live on like other consoles,
hmm
like even if they're like retroactively uh now Xbox games, but it's just funny.
Yeah, and I frankly like I genuinely don't see Activision Blizzard games staying exclusive. I wouldn't be shocked if they don't make one Xbox exclusive. I think they're just going to kind of stay the course and do what they've been doing for 30 something years, 40 something years, I guess now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're going to keep doing that. Bethesda's going to keep doing what they're doing, obviously, like with the exception of Starfield. Um, but yeah, I I think this was good, and I've heard a lot less chatter since it happened. Like, they just proved that all of this talk was just a giant nothing burger, and they've had a plan. And it's like, it's so funny to me that the video game community thinks they know business so well.
Yes.
You don't. You really don't.
The video game community thinks
Um,
they know business. They think they know how to develop a game. They think
yep.
they know best.
Yeah, yep. And it's all easy, so they should, maybe they should just uh put their money where their mouth is and go build a game. Um, I thought it was really good, mostly just to get people to shut up. But I mean, they were very frank. They weren't like backtracking anything. They said yes, like we're gonna bring these certain games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even then they're like, we're likely not going to bring these games, but they did leave that door open, which I think is fine. Again, if it gets to the point where that's what's good for the platform,
Right.
you know, why close that door? Um, and I think they were building enough excitement. Sounds like we're going to get an announcement on a new console in December or sometime around that period. Um, yeah, I thought it was.
You got out there.
You all right?
Yep. Yeah. Are you?
Yeah.
Was that on my end? That might have been on my end.
What?
Oh, you cut out and
Oh, I don't know. I didn't do any. I didn't change my mic, so
yeah, you sound perfect now too. Maybe that was on my end. Sorry. So it did cut out. You said,
I was basically just recapping. I thought it was good.
yes. Yep.
Um,
Sorry.
no, I thought it was good. That I just am glad to hear people shut up.
It's just
I
it's
feel like it gives Xbox some momentum too, especially with this Nintendo event happening today. I'm excited to watch that once we're done here.
yeah, I mean, not to like give too much away because again, we are going to talk about it next week, but I did also see Pentiment come across as an update that's coming out to Switch.
Okay.
So, um yeah, I think like you said, it was a good job to really like kind of just get everybody to shut up, right? Like, and it worked. I just can't believe, to go into that aspect of it, like we had with grown men like saying that they no longer have an allegiance to $1 billion corporation.
Hmm. Yeah, and I want to call out. Um, Shit, I probably should have written it down because I think there's two people who were just I unfollowed from the Xbox community with all of this. One of them was Tim Dog.
Mm-hmm.
He just went off the fucking rails.
Mm-hmm.
And then like when it was all said and done, he tried to like come back and say like he's still not happy. And it's like, okay, fuck you.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I guess it was just Tim Dog. It wasn't someone else, but God, he just yeah, I don't know. He's off the rails.
Yeah. It was just like it was like baffling. Like these were like you were seeing people like throwing full blown tantrums, and then you would like
Mhm.
click on them, and it's like Phil Spencer follows this person, Xbox follows this person. It's like you've managed to like get yourself to a level where like you are recognized by this corporation, um, that you've like completely tied your horse to, I guess, and there hasn't been an official statement, and you're having a public meltdown. I mean, wild, absolutely wild. I mean, again, wild to simp that hard for a corporation that at the end of the day doesn't care about you. But yeah, just crazy. And I think it helped showcase like why don't do console wars, kids. You know, it'll cause your teeth to fall out. It'll cause you to lose brain cells. What else does acid do? What's another?
Be cool.
Oh, console wars will cause you to be cool though.
Yes.
Damn, I think we're
Uh,
giving the wrong message.
According to some former roommates of mine, jump off a loading bay and break your ankle, but not realize it till the next day.
What a fantastic little anecdote.
I have very few experiences with acid in my life. That is one of them. So there you go.
You mean console wars? What? um, yeah, no, it was I have nothing else to say. I think like
Yeah.
it was exactly what like it's exactly what they needed to do, and it's just such a shame that they like. And it's again, it sounds like this was scheduled and this was planned. It's just such a shame that like we had to have all of this like public outcry for like what you said to just kind of be like a nothing burger of a statement where it's just like, yeah, this all kind of makes sense. So I love the open and like candid honesty from them too. So that's like really refreshing to see. And um, yeah, I mean, I think they're still on a good track, and I'm still excited for Xbox.
Me too.
All right, well, I think that'll do it for this episode. Like I said, next week we'll talk about this Nintendo Developer Direct that's happening as Mike and I speak right now. Um, we'll discuss that. I believe a Pokemon event is also going to be happening soon, but I don't know if that'll be before. I forget if I even looked for an actual date there. So I don't know if that'll be before next episode or not. Um, but we'll have some Pokemon news to discuss. Hopefully, maybe if it warrants it, we can bring on um, either Chris or Jess to so that they can freak out about it. That could be fun. But yeah, other than that, thank you all so much for listening. If you could do us a favor and leave us a rating or review wherever you do listen to the podcast, it would be greatly appreciated. And as always, if you could just share it with a friend, share it with somebody who is an Xbox fan who didn't freak out about the rumors. And we'll talk to you next week.